Welcome back to the latest episode of the Key and Mang Audio Experience. I'm your host, Mang, as always, joined by my fellow co-host, Key. Key, what's good?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great.
Fantastic. On today's episode, we have our guest paid off 76K in debt in 1 year, paid off his mortgage in 5 years, and is on a mission through his business, Budget Dog, to help people become financially free. Brennan Schlagbaum. Brennan, what's good?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming on. We like to start off with getting a little backstory from our guest. So could you tell us how you got to this point right now?
Yeah, so great question. So dating back 7 years at this point in time, it's been a while. I'm 30 now, but at 23 years old, I just graduated college. My wife graduated college at the time. She was my fiance, or she wasn't even my fiance at that point, girlfriend at that point. And I decided to propose. We decided to get a new house. We decided to get that ring. We decided to get everything that you could think of under the sun. And even our bed was financed. And so we took on a ton of debt, like right out of school. And that was like what we were told was a good idea. And we looked back at that and we're like, wow, that's not a good idea. I don't want $304,000 of debt on my balance sheet. So when I started to assess that, I was like, Aaron, we need to get out of this debt. Like, this is not a good thing. Like, I know everyone's congratulated us on their home and all these different things, but like, I don't want to live like this. I want to be free. And so we started attacking that debt. And that's like where the story stemmed from, to the point where like 2 years in, I was helping other people locally and friends and family. And I realized like it was having an impact. Like, obviously we paid our debt off, $304,000 of debt in 5 years. But I also realized what we were doing was actually helping other people. So I figured, I was like, well, I didn't really think of it as a business at that point, but I was like, how can I reach more people and help other people do the same thing we're doing, provide the tools, resources, mindset, all that kind of stuff. And it started working. So we went to the social media game, and long story short is my wife and I came to this conclusion that Budget Dog was a great name. We were thinking about like two niches on social media. We couldn't really think of what to do. At that point in time, I wasn't comfortable like putting out my opinion like in face on camera. So my dog was actually like the logo, like straight up Nico was my logo. And so he was like, it was budgeting and dog, and it just like somehow flew together, flown together. And we're like, yeah, that's a pretty good name, I guess. Let's just roll with it. And so I started posting a bunch of content, totally free content, totally free resources, not really thinking of it like from a business perspective. And people loved it. People were like getting a lot of value out of it. People were using my template, and things of that nature. And I realized like, hey, we have like something here. I don't know what it is, but it's something. So I started like looking and researching other big accounts online. And I came from a CPA background. So I'm a CPA. I was at Deloitte for 6 years. I was a manager there. So like I had a corporate mindset. I didn't realize like people could make money online. And I started seeing everybody around me doing like very well for themselves, better than I was doing at Deloitte. And I was like, I got to get in on this. Like, I got to figure out how to make this a business. And so that's what we did over the next like 2 years after Budget Dog was started. To the point 2 years in exactly is when I quit my 9 to 5. It was the same week we paid off our house. And it's been a year about this past Monday since I let go of that 9 to 5 at Deloitte. And so we've scaled tremendously since that moment in time. I love what I do. I love helping people, day in and day out, just get their finances right. Cause it's just not a hard game if you make it easy.
Can you talk about your experience with having that idea while at your 9 to 5 and kind of like the mental struggles you went through leading up to the point of actually leaving?
Yeah, I had a lot of mental struggle. I still have a lot of mental struggles day to day. Ask my wife. But so I think the biggest shift was like, I was so locked in on like 9 to 5 corporate, like getting my CPA, leaving school or going to college for this job, like for the rest of my life. And I even tweeted about it the other day. I had like a mindset of like, hey, we're gonna have 3 kids. I'm gonna work my way up to partner at this firm. I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z, and we're gonna live a great life. That's like the furthest thing from what happened so far. So we transitioned out of that, and I realized like I didn't really care for Deloitte too much. Like, it was a good job. I learned a lot and stuff like that, but it didn't like light me up. It was more so just a job. And I realized this is what lit me up. So when I was taking that leap of faith, I was like, okay, I'm a very conservative / risk taker. I don't know where you want to put me on the risk spectrum, but like I realized if I could put myself, get my footing underneath me, like secure, which was my finances, I could take that leap of faith to do something I love to do and see how it plays out. And so I could always go back to my 9 to 5 if it didn't work out. And so that's what we did. We paid off our home, which was very highly debated because of the low interest rate. And we basically wiped out clean all of our debt in that time frame, because we realized if we did that, even if we failed, our expenses were so low, my wife had a job, that like we'd be fine. So in order to take that leap and finally get over that hurdle, that's what we did. And it was a very, very challenging like time. When I left, I felt like on cloud nine, but about a month after, it came crashing back down. Not the business actually did better, which was weird, because my mindset was just like it was I had to, provide for my family, and I was doing something in a foreign territory I wasn't familiar with. So that came with a lot of anxiety and stress and stuff like that. I've moved past that stage over the last year to where I'm more operating from that abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset. But it was a really tough challenge, I'll be honest, when I left that. And people wouldn't suspect that. They'd say, well, you're doing great, you're working your own job on your own time. But it comes with a lot that people don't realize. And so when you change after 29 years of your whole life thinking this was my route, that's going to come with anxiety, and it did. And so I'm working through, obviously, getting past that. I'm out of that stage, that initial stage, but still foreign territory. I'm still doing my own thing and trying to figure it all out, just like us all. And so that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Can you talk a little more about that mindset shift? Because I feel like that, like you said, that's something that we all go through. We all get used to doing things a certain way, and then all of a sudden you see another way to do it, and it ends up maybe being a little better than what you thought it was going to be. But can you talk about how you have kind of worked to open up your perspective to accepting different ways of doing things?
Yeah, man, that's a good question too. Yeah, because I think the biggest thing is like, I always was of the belief, like, do what you love is BS advice. And I do think to an extent it could be, depending on what you love. But like, I think that there's also a lot of potential, especially with the online space, of like education from a teacher perspective, and like what you can potentially do. And if you actually love something, I can guarantee, like, throughout my business, it's not easy, but I could build multiple other businesses for other people coming up teaching different, niches that they like. And I think the biggest thing with in life is like, why would you go through a job that you hate for 40 years? And I know it's kind of cliche, like, don't work the job to retire at 65 and live for 13 years for happiness. Like, but I really think you need to take a step back and realize what actually makes you happy. I think in America, we're so driven by finances and money that we think we need bigger and better. And like, maybe that job that you're taking that leap of faith to might not provide that right off the bat. And our egos hold us back. Our insecurities hold us back. What are people going to think of us? Is my house going to be the nicest? Am I going to take a huge pay cut and not be able to drive a nice car? Those like little things that are like basic raw emotion in human nature are holding us back so much from just doing what we want to actually do. And when you can break through that like mindset, like, just, it's like this invisible glass in front of you. If you can get through there, you're going to be on the other side and a lot happier. And when you find something you're passionate about, I believe fully that you'll make a better living, because you'll be intentional about it, you'll love it, and you'll put a lot more effort into it. And it's going to turn into something better than what you would have done, maybe in corporate America or even elsewhere for 40 years that you didn't really like and you didn't really commit to. It was kind of like, go to the job, come home. As soon as for that Friday hits, I'm ready to hit the weekend and not think about my job for the next 2 days. Like, this job, it's part of me. It's not even a job anymore. It's like literally my identity, which is also an issue sometimes. You don't always want to put your job with your identity, but like, it's just like this ever ending, like, growth mindset that you have to like just continue to condition yourself in, to make it the best possible situation for you and your family long term, and to make sure you're bringing happiness, because we life isn't that long, and if you're doing something you hate for too long, it's just not going to it doesn't make sense. When you look back at it, you're going to regret it. And I'm young, I'm only 30, so I haven't lived that long, but I can't imagine being 65 and looking back and say, I wish I would have started that business when I had a chance to, and living with that regret. So that's kind of where my mindset has gone.
Yeah, and that's a big step to take, to even be like, all right, like, I was pretty solid at my CPA job, and to be able to branch out. But at the end of the day, when you look back at it 40 years from now, you could be like, yeah, I did everything I said I wanted to do. Got
Yep.
no regrets. I'm living life, and you're enjoying the life that you were able to create because you took your a risk while you could.
Yep.
When you were transitioning from leaving the 95 to go full-time budget dog, did you tell your coworkers about your plans? And if so, did they give you any like pushback about your decision making to go full-time budget dog?
Yeah, that's a funny story. So I tweeted yesterday or 2 days ago about this specifically. I said, if I would have listened to my mom, my dad, my coaches, my bosses, like I wouldn't be where I am today. And I'm dead serious when I say that. They operate typically from a place of love and like they're trying to help you. But a lot of the times what happens with that is safety net, like CPA jobs, cushy, decent salary, you have a good career, good life. But is it really what you want out of life? And so when I told my coworkers, when I told my parents, they're like, what are you doing? Like to this day, I remember the specific day I told my boss that I'm leaving. He said, you're leaving to do that? And like with that tone. And I said, yes, I'm leaving to do that because this is what I really like to do. And he didn't understand it. My parents didn't understand it. They all were operating from, like I said, from a place of like, they cared about me and they want the best for me. But do they really want the best for you or the most secure, safe position? And so that was like a really hard hurdle because everyone around me, everybody talking to my ear was telling me to just continue the route I was taking. Like it was a great route. Again, there's nothing wrong with the route I was taking, but like it wasn't for what I wanted. And that was the most important thing at the end of the day.
What do they say now? I'm curious.
It's funny. My parents just visited this morning. My parents are thrilled with what I'm doing. The flexibility, obviously, with my daughter's condition, like being able to stay home with her and all that stuff. It's been tremendous. And so my parents have absolutely, understood like that transition. Now they kind of see it differently. I haven't spoken with him, my old boss, so I don't know what he's still thinking. But I don't really care, to be honest. Like, great guy, but I don't care. My friends, I think they're starting to see, like they start to understand some of the moves we make. Like I don't flaunt money. I don't flaunt stuff. I don't care about that. I don't go buy the latest car or anything like that. But you can, sometimes they can realize hey, you're doing pretty well if you can do this move or this move without even thinking about it. Or, maybe my wife quits her 9 to 5 or something like that. Like obviously you're doing well enough to handle that. So I think there's a little bit of like that shock in a sense, like, hey, this is actually working out, it sounds. And that's kind of where we're at right now.
That's dope. Congrats to you. I
Thank
want
you.
to pivot. No problem. I want to pivot and talk about how you actually went about paying off $300 to $4,000 in 5 years. That's like $60K a year. Like what? How did you do that?
So I say 5 years. I'll be honest, it was probably collectively 3 or 4. Because what happened was like, so we paid off $76,000 of debt, non-mortgage debt, in like 1 year. And like we went to it, and I'll be very transparent about my salary in that time. It was 93,000 to start in, I think this was 2015, 2016 time. 93,000 collective household income. So I think I was making 50 at Deloitte my very first year. My wife was starting off at 43, 93. We rose in that given year when we paid off 76 to like 130, I think it was. So we were doing well, don't get me wrong, but like it was still a high savings percentage. And we were very creative with like how we paid off that debt. I had the biggest thing though was budgeting, which I think people like thinks just like restrictive and just like it's mundane and boring and stuff like that. It's really not. Like my process is 30 minutes a month mainly. If you're spending over 30 minutes a month, it's too much. I had a balance sheet. I had amortization schedules. Like it was my CPA nerd stuff, and like it worked. And that's what I take the people I take, that all my clients and stuff, I take them through this process, exactly what we did. And like in Budget Dog Academy, my new program, I think the average student's saving 20,000 additional dollars per year. And so that's huge. I mean, can you imagine if you had $20,000 to do other things in life? And so like my highest student was 57,000 per year. It's usually mindless spending that we aren't intentional about. And like when you actually peel it back a little bit and look into your finances, it's like eye-opening. So that was the biggest thing. I think then we went on to like save for an emergency fund. go on vacations, like enjoy a little bit. And so we took that like little break per se. And then maybe like a year or two later, we got really intentional with the house. And so the house, I believe, was at 215. We were at 229 and we paid down principal to like 215 over like a 2-3 year period. And from like 215 to like zero was like a 2-year sprint. And like it was like big chunks at different times. It was also when Budget Dog became a thing. So we had 3 incomes for a very short amount of time. And we realized we could take that income and like that was a big piece of like bringing down the risk level to quit my 9 to 5. Is like, if we can chunk at this, get this gone, then I can really fully embrace this new lifestyle and see how it works out and not have to stress about a mortgage payment. It just made sense for us at that time. And so that period probably took about 2 years. So 2.5 years mainly. So I would say like the total period truly was like 3.5, but like from start to finish was about 5 on the dot. Actually, it was like, I think a day short of 5 years.
Were you and your wife on the same page this whole time with the repayment strategy? Or it was like, did you have to convince her? Did she have to convince you to go after that?
So as a man, if you talk to a woman and you go at them and say what you're going to do, it typically doesn't work well. And that was the biggest mistake I made in the beginning. I said, Aaron, we're going to do this and this and that. And she was like, what are you saying? Like, calm down. And I was like, listen, we can get after this. And this is exactly what we're going to do. And she didn't understand why we were going to do it or what our issue was. She didn't really see that we had a problem. And so like initially she was like, let's talk about this. Then a very practical tip, I played like podcasts that talked about this stuff, but I wouldn't say it. And so I took a step back and was like, I wasn't going to attack at it. I was just going to let her kind of hear it from a third party perspective. And she was like, oh, wow, that would be cool. I'm like, yeah, I know. Let me tell you how to do it. And it started working. And from there, she was very on board within about a month after I started going at her. And she started seeing the progress. I was like, here, look, we just paid off her bed loan, which is embarrassing, but we just paid off her bed. And she was hyped about that. I was like, let's do it again. Let's do it with our car and let's do it with this ring. And she was like, this is awesome. Let's keep doing it. And I was like, yeah, let's keep doing it. And so we just were rolling. And I think that's like kind of like how we went about it. And she was fully on board after I kind of showed her that beginning stage.
That's awesome. Tricks for the trade. Good to know. Good to know. Okay, so then in this time of you having your 9 to 5, you're working on paying off massive loans of debt. How did you manage your time to work on having time with the wife, having a 9 to 5, working on Budget Dog, and managing all the other relationships, all the other things?
Yeah. Oh man, that's tough. I'll be honest, the first year we knew there was going to be some sacrifice. So like I was working a construction job on the weekends. I was like demoing a church. Like I was like, I got to make any money if possible. And so like outside of my CPA job, like I was working construction, I was working landscaping, I was cutting grass, like anything, everything just to bring extra money in. So we didn't have kids at that point in time. So it was just her and I, and we understood each other and what our goals were. And that was okay. Now, going forward, we realized, hey, even if we do this house thing, because that was a bigger piece of it, we aren't going to live like extremely like crazy. Like we need to like attack it. We also need to go on a vacation together. We also need to spend time together. We can't live like this for 5 long years. For a year, that was okay. We'd still come to the same house every night and, see each other, and we were with each other, just not as much as we ideally would like. But we saw the bigger picture, the bigger why. And we realized if we got past this initial stage, this sacrifice, going forward, we'd be able to stay home with Logan, our daughter. So, and that's what we're doing. I'm staying home with her full time. While my wife still works her 9 to 5, and then she's very flexible. So she's home with her a lot. So we get to fully embrace our daughter, which was like one of the coolest moments ever. And that's really what we were after. So it was hard to juggle. I'm not going to lie, waking up on a Sunday afternoon or Sunday morning to go demo a church with a hard hat on was not my ideal scenario when I worked all week. But I knew it was for the better good.
Did you always feel like you were okay with sacrificing like short-term fun or like just sacrificing things for the bigger picture, like the long-term picture? Or is that something you had to kind of condition yourself to be comfortable with?
Yeah, I think when I get my mindset on something, it's pretty like, hey, I'm going to go at it. Like, it's not like 50-50. Like because I always tell myself, if I don't write, I have a whiteboard in my living room. It's a great addition to the living room. My wife loves it. If I don't write on my whiteboard the second I want to do something, I know I'm not that serious about it. And I don't even add it to the whiteboard. I don't even like consider it because I know I'm not fully invested into it. But when I set my mind to something, I will attain it. It's just a matter of time. And so I've always been okay with sacrificing the short term because I see the bigger picture and I see, if I was sacrificing for 40 years to live 3 years, it wouldn't make sense. But I'm sacrificing for 1 year for the rest of my life. And that makes a lot of sense to me. And so for me, it's pretty easy. It comes struggles, obviously, when it's, 6 months in and you don't have that initial motivation. It's hard, but I always like to write my whys down and to go back to those things when I, maybe hit the sauna, hit the gym, and just think about the bigger picture, get out of the day to day and think about why I'm doing it. And it kind of get back into that groove.
So then the why for Budget Dog. Can you explain your why for Budget Dog?
Yeah, man. So it's very personal, obviously, with like my story and our story, Aaron's and I's story. It just made sense. Like it was helping people fast track their finances. And so when we were going through it, it was emotional. There was a lot of emotional baggage to it. We hated that debt so much. And like when we attacked it and we saw like other people struggling, my natural inclination is like, hey, I can help you. Like, let's do this. And so like, it was just a natural flow of like the company itself. It's like, it was just me like seeking out an issue like that I've solved. And I do this with everything in life. If I've solved something, I'll go help somebody else if I see that issue with them. So I've always like naturally done that. And so I realized like this finance game isn't that hard. And like, I figured out the blueprint to it. And if I can go help you, because I see that you have a problem, I'm going to do it. And so that's my biggest why behind this. And everyone always says, well, you're making an income. Like, yeah, I'm making an income, but like, this is the thing is I enjoy doing this. I made $0 for the first 16 months of Budget Dog. I didn't care. Like, this is just what I like to do. Every time I left my job, I would focus on that. And it wasn't to make a profit. It really wasn't. It was just to talk about finance, help people with it. And it just lit me up. And so when money came into the picture, I was like, cool, this is my income. Now I can actually quit my job and focus on this full time. And it's like one of those things, I forget, there's like this Chinese thing where there's like 3 different, like, or 4 different quadrants or 3 things or whatever. It's like what you love to do, like what you're good at, and like what you're something along the lines of that. Don't quote me. But that's like what Budget Dog is to me. It's like part of me. It's like who I am now and what I do. And so I love that component of it. It doesn't seem like a job. Like it's Sunday today and I'm doing a podcast. And I love this. And 2 hours ago, I was working with 2 clients. And so like, that just lights me up. And so if I can make an income to do that kind of stuff, it's perfect. It's a perfect match.
And how has it, I know 16 months of no income. How did you, I know you, because you love it, you're able to just continue pushing into it. But at some point, you're probably starting to think, all right, this stuff works. Why am I not seeing people come in and finding my stuff? Like, was that kind of dynamic hard to navigate as your stuff works, you just need more people to see it? Like, how do you stay patient with that?
Yeah. So like, to be honest, it wasn't like the intention of Budget Dog was not a business. And so I didn't even have really products until the first 16 months. I did like one-on-ones for like, I don't know, I think my rate at the time was like $99 an hour, but like nobody was signing up because they didn't know who I was. I was fresh out of the gate and I didn't have much content online at that point in time. So like after the 16 months, when I realized like this was a business, people love the content, I wrote my first book, and that was Investing 101. And so when I saw the takeoff of that book, I realized, well, that's not all. Investing is a piece of it, but there's more to this whole picture and like what I can provide and like what I actually did myself. And so like the short answer is like I didn't think this was a business. I just like doing it. And so it didn't like bug me not to make money. But when I realized I could, and I could make this a job full time, which I could help people, I could leave my 9-to-5 job, I could actually provide real value to the world. That's when I like jumped in fully and started making an income from it.
Speaking of social media, how did you get used to one, showing your face, and then also like kind of figuring out your voice on social media and being consistent with that?
Yeah, I definitely wasn't. I'm pretty like I'm very personable. I like to talk to people, don't get me wrong, but I don't like to rub people the wrong way. It's just who I am. I never have like that in the past. I've developed some thick skin through social media because like people come at you. I know it's social media, it's all words and typing and stuff and keyboard warriors, but like it like sometimes people say some crazy stuff and you're like, wow, that's like wasn't expecting that on a Sunday morning, but okay, here we are. And so I think like just develop, I think anything, if you practice a skill over and over and over, like you become used to it and it's become second nature. Like I used to hate doing IG lives. I just felt awkward doing them. Now I do them like every single night. So like they always say like do 10,000 hours and you become a master of it. I think that's really true because like you develop this like pathway of like, this is just what I do. This is like what I'm good at. And so like it becomes natural to you versus like that like initial like anxiety feeling or fright feeling and you just go at it. And so I think just the time aspect of it for it's been 3 years at this point in time has really helped me kind of get past that initial stage.
Do you have a team, or was it just you and Aaron posting on socials?
Just Aaron and I for the beginning. I've developed a team with time. So now that I'm trying to scale a little bit, I actually had interviews. I hosted some interviews this past weekend. And I know exactly who I'm going to hire. I also have a business coach team. So 3 or 4 guys that really help me like strategize because I'm not that mindset. I'm kind of more CPA, like fact based, not marketing mind. And so I was like, if I need to scale, like I need somebody to market for me because I don't know how to do that. Like, and I'm my weaknesses are what I need to go find and hire. So that's what I've done. And I just like to focus on the content and like delivering good quality value. And so the team has grown around me. I don't know what that looks like 10 years from now, but I think it's going to be a lot bigger. I want it to be 3,000 people? No. Do I want it to be maybe a team of 5 to 10? Yeah.
I had question back to Budget Dog, and just in terms of, can you break down the services that you provide as a company, and what kind of people you are trying to get join your community, join your crew?
Yeah, so the main services I have like products like books, investing 101, my 401k book, calculators, like debt-free calculators and stuff of that nature. Those are like my product-based things. My big thing is Budget to Financial Freedom. That's my budgeting course. It's more so all-in financial course. So like helping you with exactly the framework and the roadmap that I went through myself to get out of debt, but also to invest. Like it's not just budgeting. Then I would say my other one's one-on-one services. So working with clients one-on-one, either getting a financial plan together, just talking through their situation, giving them some pointers and stuff like that. That would be my third thing. My big thing and my pride and joy, and like it's like my baby at this point in time, outside of Logan, is Budget Dog Academy. And so Budget Dog Academy is a 6-month program where it walks you from start to finish. It provides you all the education you need, all the resources you need, all the tools you need, and all myself in it. Actively like helping you like become financially free in any or whatever goals you want to reach financially. My ideal client is honestly anybody that wants to become financially free or pay off debt or invest. I know it's a wide range and most people are like, hey, focus in on your client, but I truly think I can help 18 and I can help somebody that's 57. Like it doesn't matter. If you have any questions about finance, I know I can put you on the right path. And so that's what I've been doing. And Budget Dog Academy is only 2.5 months old. So we have about 55, 56 people in there right now. And I'm trying to take this to a whole nother level, really focusing on not just the finance aspect of it, but the behavioral side of it. So I have a financial therapist within the community people book free calls with, to really kind of understand the behavioral psychology behind the decisions that they're making. Cause I think it's so much bigger than just a budget or just a balance sheet. Technical stuff is important, but the emotional stuff is way more important. So I'm trying to really, really grow this out, and it's not a product by any means. And it's already very effective.
That's dope. That's real dope. Um, are there ever moments like scared, or like what am I doing? What am I getting? Like, am I dreaming too big? You ever think like, does there ever any uncertainty that comes with what you're thinking about?
Oh man, imposter syndrome hits me all the time. And I'm like, I don't know why, because like I'm qualified. I mean, I'm very qualified. I'm a CPA. I've worked in the corporate world for 6 years. I've done it myself, which I think is the biggest thing of this. And I still hit imposter syndrome blocks like every once in a while. Like, who am I to teach everybody this stuff? Like, why me? So yeah, those things come into play. Running your own business when you're like trying to figure it all out from scratch and you don't have that prior year work paper and at Deloitte, big four CPAs would laugh at that to go off of as like a base. It's definitely scary. It's like you're venturing into new territory. Entrepreneurship is a very, very fascinating thing. And I think when I love talking to other entrepreneurs because I feel like their minds work a little differently. I don't know. I'm go back and forth. I don't have that like what you think of an entrepreneur in mind. Like I'm not very like creative in that sense, like very like loosey goosey. I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs are all over the place, like Elon Musk of the world. I'm more like structured, but I also have that component to me and I attack things that I want to attack. So like I think it works out for me. But that's why I'm hiring marketing people. That's why I'm hiring like visionaries. Like I have a vision for my company, but like it's slow. I feel like I'm a little slower than the next person when it comes to like entrepreneurship. So I think they're very fascinating to talk to. But there's a lot of fear because like you don't have that consistent paycheck. Like if you aren't making it work, it's just not working and you're not getting paid and your family's not eating. So there's always a little bit of fear in the back of your mind.
I agree. I think it's important to, I don't think you have to have that entrepreneur like mindset fully because you're good at what you're good at. And then you just have to find the right people to surround you that are good at what you're not so great at. And then you're good at that.
Right.
But I want to pivot and talk about strategies to paying off student loans. So I know you paid off like a mortgage and I don't know if it was consumer debt or some consumer debt, but how do you recommend people to pay off student loans?
Yeah, so I think most want to default to like forgiveness and like that's cool. Like if you get forgiveness, I'd take it. Don't get me wrong, but like I wouldn't rely on it. So I've been like chastised on the internet for like saying like, hey, I would take ownership of your student loans and just pay them off yourself. But I mean it from like a good place. Like I don't mean it to be like I don't know, Dave Ramsey, like fist pounding, like not like that. I'm just saying like take ownership. Like it's going to be better for you long term. Like I'm trying to help you here. And so if you're trying to attack like student loans, I think I did an IG live the other day where I walked through my process on a whiteboard. And so it's hard to do it obviously on here, but I think the three financial statements you're going to need are a balance sheet, your assets minus liabilities is your net worth. And you need for each liability, you need an associated amortization schedule listing out your debts exactly to the penny, to the date that you're going to pay it off. That gives you a good framework of a timeline, exactly what it's going to take. Most times I ask somebody how long is it going to take, they don't know. So that means they don't have that document because that will tell you exactly when you're going to pay it off. Then you need a budget. And so if you optimize the balance sheet first, maybe from your cash position's a little high or maybe even a little low, you need to optimize your balance sheet to maybe speed up that debt payoff. The other side of it is your budget, and that's your cash flow. So your monthly cash flow tells you how much you can throw extra towards your loans, towards your debt, towards your investing, whatever your goals are. And if you optimize that cash flow in accordance with the zero-based budget, then you can fast forward your debt payoff. So my tools allow you to input like a number. Like let's say we have an extra 250 per month. It will automatically calculate, hey, this 250 will shut off 6 months. At like just having that in front of you will light you up because you'll see the pathway, you'll see the finish line. And when you actually see a clear picture, it's a lot easier to attack something versus, hey, I don't know how this is going to impact me. Is it worth to wake up on a Sunday and go demo a church for $250 because I don't know if it's really going to help that much in the grand scheme of things. So if you just have that on paper, the financial statements, which are on my website, I walk you through my framework. That's all you need. And then it's just a matter of staying consistent and attacking.
So do you recommend paying them off as quick as you can?
I personally did. I think it's depending on everyone's goals. I mean, if your goal isn't to pay off your student loan and you're okay with that, like extra payment, like all the power to you. If you want to like, hey, I want to take my investments or my money and invest all that money and make more money, as they say, that's fine with me. I don't look at student loans as like a good debt. Like I know people go back and forth in good debt, bad debt. And I get it's for your education, it's providing that income that you're operating with. I still don't look at like any asset that doesn't have an associated like cash flow aspect to it as a good debt. And so I would personally pay off my student loans, especially if they're above 6%, right away as fast as I can. Now, I have a YouTube video that walks through kind of my whole framework. It's like 11 minutes, so I won't get into that, but it walks you through calculating both scenarios or maybe multiple scenarios and then making a judgment off of that, because you need the actual concrete facts in front of you to make that actual assessment.
I like that answer. I'm gonna check out that video because I have student loans and I say I don't want to pay it off as fast as possible. I want to invest, but who knows? We'll see. Thank you.
Yeah.
Speaking of student loans, one of the questions that we got from the audience, they wanted to know how to get approved for a FHA loan when you have student loans. Like, does that impact your ability? Like, how does that play a role?
Yeah, so it's gonna. My dad's actually a mortgage lender. He was just over here talking this morning about 40% DTI, debt to income ratio. So like, as long as your student loans aren't greatly impacting you from like a debt to income perspective, like you should be fine. Like we had student loans when we applied for an FHA loan, we got it. We put 3.5% down in 2016, 2015, or whatever that was, and there was no problem doing it. I think if your income is lower and your debt service is very high in relation to that, you could like run into some issues, but I think that's the case with any loan. Typically I don't see it holding people back. One tip I think could really help people, if you are a professional, it's called professional loan. And you have to check exactly your state and like the qualifications of the bank and all that kind of stuff. But like, if you're like a CPA qualifies, like nurses, doctors, lawyers, I believe qualify, you can actually get that professional loan for those student loans. And I believe that does not count against, if it's in deferment, it doesn't count against your debt to income ratio. I don't remember that specifically, the details, but check into that if you're out there struggling with that professional loan.
Thank you. Perfect. When it comes to you paying off your debt early on, what mistakes did you make early on? Like, what pitfalls did you experience? Anything like that?
Yeah, so the debt payoff journey, like once we actually started paying it off, wasn't that bad. It wasn't like I wouldn't say we made a ton of mistakes. Some people say that we shouldn't have paid off our mortgage. Like I get that debate. I have a lot of content on that. But like I do know the mistakes we made were before we took on the debt. And that was our biggest mistake. I think we took on a little too much home in the beginning. We put way too much down, which incurred PMI. I think that we probably took on not the bed loan that we should have taken on. We could have slept in a cot, and I'm just playing. But we could have slept in something cheaper than we probably slept in. And we were doing house additions that were incurring debt, and we didn't need to be doing that stuff. And I think that's the thing. Those are the mistakes we made early on. I wouldn't say we got like crazy and like we weren't going to buy like BMW cars, but like we were buying cars that probably we didn't need at that point in time in our life. We could have gotten a lot cheaper, but you know what? It's American dream to go get a new car and get a new house and do all these things when you graduate college. And we fell to that trap.
I'm guilty of that too. I just got a kind of newish car, but we were in the hunt for a while, and I was like, I need something. I was looking at it as a long term. I'm gonna be driving this for a long time. So
well, I'm not.
sure
I think that everyone likes like, oh, you like budgeting, so therefore you're cheap. Like I don't have a problem with like buying nice stuff. Like we'll go on a nice vacation at the drop of a dime, but like a nice car, like if that's your thing, go for it. Like I always say, value spend. Like focus on what brings ROI to your life. If you're like, hey, I like this car, not for the sake that other people validate me, but like because I like it, go do it. I don't have a problem with that. It's the problem becomes when people are doing it because of others' reactions, and that's when it gets dicey and stuff like that. So if it brings ROI to your life, I don't care, spend the money. Just your budget's your money. It's a spending plan, and just allocate that money there and you're good.
what do you find for people who are like into budgeting? Like, how do they deter off track? Like, let's say you get going for a couple months, and then like, how do they maintain consistency versus how do they fall off and like go back to wonderless spending?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is tracking and knowing your why. I think it's really hard for anybody to stay consistent with anything unless it's in your personality to do so. And even so, I think building systems and automation to ensure that you don't get off track is the key. And so I always like explain this from like a practical point of view is like, I build as many automation systems in my life, right? And so one of my favorite books was Atomic Habits. And so it talked about like, hey, when you go to the gym, don't think about going to the gym every day. Just get up to think about tying your shoes or putting your shoes on or putting your gym clothes on, and then getting in your car, and then, packing whatever you need to get to the gym, and then driving to the gym. And so you can put those systems in place where it's like, hey, I need to think about this, this, and this, and that. That's going to help you a lot more than saying, hey, I need to go to the gym every day when you don't feel like it, because you're not going to feel like every single day. Another practical thing is a water bottle. I know it's crazy, but like when I say systems, it's really actually more practical. Like if I need 100 ounces of water, I'm going to fill this up 4 times in a day. 25 ounces, it's pretty simple to do. If I just have a cup or I just go get a cup, I'm not going to do that because I have to fill it up 10 times. I'm not going to think about it. There's no calculation or automation behind it. That's always going to crush you. If you're paying off debt or investing, automate every single bill that you have. Do not manually do it. Do not manually decide. Just set it up automation and let it ride. You'll live such an easier life to do that. That's why part of my system is 30 minutes per month, because it doesn't take a lot of time once you set the system up, whether that's going to investments or additional debt payoff. Like just set these systems up to make your life a lot easier. I put everything in my calendar on my phone to say today, for example, for my content, to stay on track for my content, consistency. Monday is my YouTube video. Tuesday is my TikTok video. Like I just set those things up so it's easy. I don't have to think about it. And if you can take away the thought process or the decision making to do those things, decision fatigue is a big thing. You'll be a lot more consistent, I think, long term.
Automating processes. I like it. I like it. I like it. Give you less things, less decisions to make, and so makes your life easier.
What's that?
I said giving less decisions makes your life easier.
Oh, 100%, man. It's absolutely all the big CEOs of the world, like the Zuckerbergs, and all those guys, like they always wear the same thing. This is like a known thing. It's because they don't have to think about what they're wearing in the morning or what they wake up, and they might have their cook, different levels of wealth, but they might have their cook cook them breakfast, so they don't have to think about that. Like that's extremely powerful when you're running a company, especially because you can focus on decision making for the company and not get distracted by all the minutia in the world that's out there.
And when you said, I saw like one of your tweets or one of your posts about like it was something about like people just need to take action and not get stuck in like the little details. What tips do you have for people just to sit down and take action on the decisions they need to make and not overcomplicate things?
Yeah, I think there's part of it self accountability. Like I can't go physically sit somebody down and say, go do it. But I think that if you do if you understand your why and you get some clarity behind that of how to get there, I think naturally people would jump into that, right? And so that's what Budget Dog Academy is saying, I'm going to set you up to see that clear picture in front of you. I'm going to provide every tool, resource. I'm going to be there. I'm going to check in with you. I'm going to give you access to certified financial therapists to understand the behavioral side of things. And you're going to attack this. And so I think putting those things, and I'm still working on like the ultimate process of getting someone from A to Z without any hurdles along the way. I'm trying to take out those issues that people are having. At the end of the day, it does come down to some self-accountability. Like I can't physically make you do every single thing. And so I think understanding that why, like I go back to that a lot, is because if you don't understand it, it's not, if you don't feel like it, it's you'll brush it off. Like it's just natural. If you see a bigger why or bigger reason behind why you're doing what you're doing, it's going to make a lot more sense. And so I think that it comes down to that.
I think that's a common thing among like all of our guests or all like highly successful people. They always have a why, they have a plan, and that gives them a roadmap and clarity to moving forward. But we don't have that. You're not gonna know why you're doing it, and it's gonna be hard to stay consistent with whatever you're doing. So I think it's a common theme.
A big tip: have a kid. You'll find out your why really fast.
I saw this post. I was like, I should have a kid to motivate me. No, that's funny. I want to talk about investing accounts like the Roth IRA versus traditional like 401ks. Like, can you break those down to our audience and tell like the difference between them and benefits briefly?
Yeah. So if we're talking between Roth IRA and traditional 401k, the biggest thing is one's employer sponsored, which is your traditional 401k. One is like, hey, you have to open it yourself. It's an individual account, which I found out the other day. It's an individual retirement arrangement, not account, but so whatever. So if you're going between traditional and Roth, the 401k is the actual account. The IRA is the actual account. The traditional Roth can be tacked onto either one typically. And that's the type of account. So like, it's like, do I pay tax now or do I pay tax later? That it's as simple as that. So if I do a Roth 401k, we know 401k is employer sponsored. It's through my workplace. And then I know a Roth is after tax or post tax. So I get my paycheck, it goes to my bank, and then technically it goes into that 401k, Roth 401k. Your employer deducts it out after tax. But same thing with the Roth 401 or IRA or traditional is technically speaking, it's pre-tax or post-tax. Now, how you make that decision between 401k or IRA, I think one is if you get an employer match, I would always go to the employer match first. It's free money, 100% of your money. Secondly, I would go to your IRA, which is maxing that out $6,000 in 2022, expected to increase in 2023 to 6,500, and then go back to your 401k for the remaining portion that you're wanting to invest. I typically say 15% of your gross income. If you make 100,000, 15,000. So first, let's say you have a 3% match at 100,000, 3,000 step one, 6,000 step two, and then 6,000 step three. Add up steps 1 and 3, which is 9,000. That goes to your 401k over the whole year. And then your $6,000 goes to your IRA through the whole year. I would probably set that up on a bi-weekly contribution. I would offset the two. So if your employer pays you the first and third every month, set up your IRA to give them out the second and fourth for cash flow reasons. So you're not like lopsided throughout the month. And it comes down to that. Now within the account, whether you do pre-tax or post-tax, it grows tax-free in both of those. And then when you take it out, depending on if you chose pre-tax or post-tax, is how you'll get taxed on the way out. Roth, you get no tax on the way out because you've already paid the tax up front. Whereas pre-tax, you'll pay tax on the income that you pull from that account. They're excellent accounts. I tweeted about IRAs and 401ks specifically this week. I think there's a lot of heat around them. It's like one of those things where it's like the boomer generation does 401ks. These things suck. You can't touch it till 59 and a half. There are 3 specific ways to get that money out before 59 and a half. They are tax-free, growth-free vehicles, and they're excellent accounts. You just have to know your goals.
Yeah, that's a lot, but thanks. When people are like trying to determine like what they should do, does age play a role? Like, do you think younger people should do one versus the other?
Yeah, for sure. I think age is the big. I come out with a YouTube video, I think on Monday, that says your investment returns don't matter, and they do, but it was a catchy headline. So time is the biggest wealth building factor. And so if you have more time at 23 years old versus 60, or let's just say 47, your strategy is going to be a lot different. If you haven't saved at 47 for retirement, that should be your primary vehicle that you're focused on. If you're 23 and you have tons of time and you focused on that, you might be able to go other routes. You could maybe go HSA route. You may be able to go taxable brokerage route, where it gets you to an early retirement. Maybe the rule of 55 applies. Maybe Roth conversion ladder applies, like different strategies to take that money out early. And so, yes, time is critical. As far as like most people's goals are like, hey, retire on time or retire early or own some rental properties or blah, blah, blah. Depending on what those goals are or the accounts that you'll use, and depending on your risk level and your goals is what investments you'll select within those accounts.
Whew. All right, we're gonna have to listen to this one a couple times, couple times to make sure that we're all on the same page. But we just had a couple transitioning a little bit to some of the questions that we got from our audience. First one is how to resist from taking money out of a savings account after they've been saving already.
Mm.
And I think I have an answer. I have a feeling I know where you're gonna head with this, but just wanted to get your perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, the first things first is like, again, go back to the why, understanding what you're doing, having some self-discipline, having a clear plan in front of you so that you don't give into that temptation. I think that's like the best way to put it. Like at the end of the day, we can't stop anybody from dipping into that if they want to dip into it. But I think having that clear plan, understanding like how that impacts you long term from a math perspective, I think will open your eyes. You're like, oh wow, if I do that, it takes away, let's say, 20,000 of retirement income from me. Like that's a lot bigger than thinking the $200 that I'm taking out or whatever. Just as an easy example. I think that's the biggest thing. That's hard. I think allocating on your balance sheet and understanding like where the accounts are, why they're there, for what reason, are going to help as well. Is that what you thought I was going to say?
That is where I thought you were gonna head. That's where I thought you were gonna head. And then the second one, for a person wanting, we talked about cars a little earlier, but someone who wants a new car, but not sure if they should pay off their current car or just trade it in. What are your
Mhm.
thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you have a new, let's say you have a car that could sell for 15,000, it's paid off, right? And you want a new car. Like if that car is 20, the new car is like 25,000, you're like, hey, I could sell it, get 15K for it. The other car is 10,000. If you save for like in a sinking fund or are okay with the leverage that you're taking on, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's totally fine. I think it's just being smart and like understanding your goals. I typically value stack my goals. So like car on my personal list is very low. So I'm like, the brokerage account's my main goal right now, and that's for like flexibility, total flexibility of our finances. So I would take out a piece of paper and just value stack your goals. What's most important to you from top to bottom, and then kind of allocate your finances in that order. And if that works with you, you're good to go. If the car's at the very top of the list, go for it. Like I'm not stopping you. It's your money, it's your spending plan. It just comes down to really goals at the end of the day.
And you talked about brokerage account being at the top of your list right now. What would you say, let's say the next 5 to 10 years, what are your main focuses on? What are you trying to focus on for the next 5 to 10?
Yeah. So outside of financials, my daughter's condition, Dravet syndrome, like that would be, if we could figure that out in the next 5 to 10 years, by far number one, like the only important thing. Number two, I would say, is the more flexibility, which is the reason the brokerage is so high, into my wife quitting her 9 to 5. Really, and we have some upcoming plans in the works that we are really, we've already said yes to these things. We just need some time to elapse for them to happen. And so that's my main goal. If we can hit our numbers that we want to hit in that brokerage account, provides a lot of flexibility, gives us more time with our daughter, all those things. Again, I'm not real fancy. You won't catch me rolling around in a Range Rover or anything like that. Nothing wrong with it. Just not my priorities. Maybe one day in the future. But for right now, my focus is my daughter's health and the flexibility within the accounts for us to focus even more on her.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And what would you say, we talked about a lot today. What would you say 1 to 2 things you want people to take away from convo today?
Yeah, so I think number one, finance is easy. If you think it's complicated, just let me know. I will help you. And I think number two is, if you are at any bit at unease of finances and you just want to get on track, you just want to feel clarity, peace, just you have a good future in front of you and good foundation, just DM me. Like I talk to anybody. I respond to every DM. I know a lot of big accounts. People are like, I can't believe you responded. Like I respond. I'm not like stuck up like that. So I will respond to anybody. I'll help anybody. I don't care what level you're at. If it's beginner level, advanced level, just let me know. And if I can help you, I will.
Oh, okay. Sorry, May was gonna say something, but yeah, that's totally true. I honestly didn't expect you to respond, but then I was like, he might respond. But yeah, I like accounts like that, and I don't have a big account, but I feel like people have that like mindset too. I guess when you present yourself a certain way. But I'm glad you responded. I'm glad we got you on the show, and I'm looking forward to having you back on in a few years to see how Budget Dog has evolved.
For sure, guys. I appreciate you having me on as well.
Can you let the audience know where to find you, and we'll also plug your products below.
Yeah, so Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok sucks. Facebook, I have a blog on my website. All of those are Budget Dog, like at Budget Dog. I think my Twitter and my TikTok might be Budget Dog _. If other fake accounts hit you up and DM you, it's not me. And then yeah, my blog's on my website, budgetdog.com. And I think that's all the resources I offer, but you can find me there and ask additionally.
Perfect.
Sounds good, man. You got anything else?
Nah, though, just be careful for those fake bot accounts because they're coming in hot.
They're coming real hot.
They're coming in hot. But no, I appreciate you coming on the pod, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thanks, guys.